Thanks, everybody. We are here to talk about the ballot measure that will raise our gas price by 6 cents a gallon, which sounds like a small amount until you consider how much it's gone up since Trump's illegal war started. So I don't know if any of us really expect for the measure to pass, just given the temperament of the voters right now. But we're really happy to have Commissioner Phil Chang from the Oregon Transportation Commission, who's here just to talk to us about the measure and why it's important and what it's going to mean for everybody in Oregon should or when it fails. And he's a Deschutes County commissioner who's built a career in public service conserving Oregon's natural resources. And he spent 9 years at the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, and he's served as Senator Merkley's Central Oregon field rep and the manager of the Oregon Federal Forest Restoration. And I could go on and on and on. We're just lucky to have him and his knowledge today. So with that, I'm going to put you on a spotlight, Commissioner, and let you introduce yourself, and then maybe give a little bit of a background about the measure and why we ought to pass it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today to visit with you a little bit. I'm on my phone on speaker. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I'm Phil Chang. My day job is I am a elected county commissioner in Deschutes County, and for the last year and a half, I have served as an appointed member of the Oregon Transportation Commission. When Governor Kotek asked if I wanted to be appointed to this position, I was thinking, you really never say no to the governor, right? If the governor's asking you to do something, you do it. And there are a lot of days now that when I settle into Oregon Transportation Commission business where I really wish I had refused because I came in to serve on the OTC right at the moment when our funding crisis for basic operations and maintenance of our state roads was coming to a head. Let me just say, by way of introduction to Measure 120, I really wish that we all could just pay 6 cents a gallon more to improve the safety and accessibility of our state roads through basic maintenance, and save lives and prevent severe crashes by doing so, instead of us paying $1 more per gallon or $1.50 more per gallon so that we could fight a war in Iraq. But as Teresa or Terry said, because we have seen such a massive increase in gas prices in the last month, I'm under no illusions that people are going to say, yeah, let's pay 6 cents a gallon more in gas tax, so that we can make sure our state roads are adequately maintained. We can wish, but I can talk for a couple minutes about how we got to this place and what's going to happen if this measure doesn't pass. So how we got to this place is that the last major transportation bill package passed by the state legislature in Oregon was in 2017. House Bill 2017, as it was called, or as it's named, has done great things for our state in terms of getting a whole bunch of really needed capital projects, major infrastructure upgrades, and new interchanges, things like that, built around the state of Oregon. But the Achilles heel, the fatal flaw of House Bill 2017 was that it did not provide adequate funding, adequate allocations for basic maintenance of our state roads to carry us all the way to 2026. We were doing okay until 2021, 2022, but there came a point where, with inflation, the COVID inflation that we had, basically the costs of maintaining our state highway system started to separate from the available resources provided by House Bill 2017. So we have a chronic funding deficit for basic road maintenance, state road maintenance at this point. And if you're in a place like that, something has to give. Either you have to dramatically reduce maintenance work, and that's where we almost were during the legislative long session in 2025. The choice was, will we either pass a gas tax and registration and title fee increase, or we lay off hundreds of employees who perform basic maintenance on our state highway system to close the gap, close the funding gap. The legislature passed a little transportation package, House Bill 3991, which then a bunch of conservative legislators that were angling to run for governor or get their person in as governor decided to counteract by launching a ballot measure, and a signature petition campaign to repeal House Bill 3991. So they gathered the signatures. So where we're at now is that the gas tax and the title and registration fees that House Bill 3991 approved are now being referred to the voters. Just a little bit about where that money goes. So in the state of Oregon, we have something called a 50-30-20 split for our state highway fund. That's where the gas tax and those title and registration fees go. So the state highway fund is divided 50% to state roads, 30% for county roads, 20% for city roads. So your whatever city and whatever county you live in, their roads are on the line with this ballot measure as well. But since I'm here wearing a Oregon Transportation Commission state hat, I'll talk primarily about what's happening at the state. So, like I said, without funds to close that chronic shortfall in operations and maintenance, we either lay off a bunch of people and don't do a bunch of work. We didn't, after House Bill 3991, the governor said, "Time out, don't do that." They directed ODOT to kind of walk back from the ledge on that. Now that those gas tax and fee increases are being referred to the voters for this fiscal year, we had to figure out a new way to close that shortfall between what our maintenance will cost and the resources that we have. And this time, instead of laying off hundreds of people, the state legislature decided to instead basically freeze a bunch of other kinds of spending in order to bring more, hundreds of millions of dollars over to operations and maintenance. So we have suspended the Connect Oregon grant program for rail and air and maritime transportation projects this year. We have suspended Safe Routes to Schools grants for this year. We have suspended community paths grants for this year. And then we've suspended a bunch of other kinds of investments that all impact the quality of services that we're getting, the quality of transportation services we're getting. So, for example, ODOT had with the gas tax and title and registration fee increases, ODOT had saved enough money to more adequately staff the DMV offices in my community. And now, because we're having this, we're back to an operations and maintenance funding shortfall, they had to raid that money and bring it over to the maintenance side. So we will continue to be chronically understaffed in our DMV offices in Central Oregon, and people will wait longer. They will, have to, sign up weeks and weeks and weeks in advance for an appointment, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the likely impact of, or that is the impact, the current impact of this of House Bill 3991 being referred to the voters and kind of frozen until we know what's going to happen with that measure. If it doesn't pass, which is what everyone suspects that it's not going to pass, then the legislature will be back at it in early 2027, trying to figure out how to adequately fund maintenance and in our state transportation system. And like I said, if 30% of the money was going to go to counties and 20% of the money was going to go to cities, they'll be trying to figure out how to make up that, how to keep their budgets whole and keep moving forward with maintaining your transportation systems where you live as well. So that's. Sorry, that was more than a longer intro than I had intended, but it's kind of a long, complicated story. I'd be happy to answer questions for a couple of minutes if people have questions.
Well, you did a great summation. So there's no backup plan besides taking another crack at it in January when there's a long session.
Yeah, I mean, conceivably, the governor could call people back for a special session, another special, but House Bill 3991, they passed, last year in September during a short session, an emergency short session. And, with the elections coming up this November, I don't see it happening. We will basically claw back money from all these grant programs and other kinds of investments for now, and that'll carry us to January 2027, and we'll see what happens after that.
We've seen in other states bridges collapse and really huge catastrophes happen by not maintaining what needs to be done. Does Oregon have anything identified, any roads or bridges that would be catastrophic without getting the funding?
I don't think we're in that bad, in as bad condition, at least in our state system. Again, we've had a maintenance funding shortfall for a few years, but we basically just keep raiding other programs and services to cover that. I think we've cut to the bone as far as we can cut at this point, though, and so I would expect if we're not able to come up with new maintenance funding in the next legislative session, that's when things will really start to fall apart. And we will see things, it's really basic stuff like clearing a landslide, when landslides happen, or adequate snow and ice removal, getting trees off the road or crashes off the road when trees fall or crashes occur, fixing little cracks so that they don't grow to be big cracks that will cost 5 times as much to fix in a couple years, because we let it unravel. We have other programs for major bridge maintenance, and those are this is completely separate from Measure 120, which is just about a little gas and title and registration fee increase to pay for maintenance. But there are other major bridge seismic and retrofit programs that in those cases we're directing a lot of money to big mega projects that were identified under, again, House Bill 2017, which are keeping us from adequately funding those kinds of bridge programs across the state in other places. By these mega projects, I'm talking about like the I-205 Abernathy Bridge, the Center Street Bridge in Salem, I-5 Rose Quarter in the Rose Quarter, and then the Interstate Bridge itself, the Columbia River crossing that is we're getting ready to move forward with pretty soon.
Okay, there's a couple of questions in the chat about electric vehicles and how does this, charging people with still gas cars, how is it balanced out? Will they pay higher fees or?
Yeah. One of the reasons that gas tax revenue is not keeping up with the cost of doing basic road maintenance, one of the reasons is that a lot of people are driving higher efficiency vehicles and electric vehicles, or hybrids. I'm sitting here in my plug-in hybrid right now, and the way we are not to a point where we have a road user charge system all planned out yet, but that is where the parts of House Bill 3991 that people aren't trying to repeal are directing us. So, the state's been trying to figure out what a road user charge system looks like for a couple of years now. And you all, some of you may be familiar with the Origo program. It was like a voluntary program you put a little device in your car and they can track your mileage. We need to come up with something that is more efficient, cost effective to implement than that. There are a lot of other states that are also working on this. We may get some federal help with figuring this out because, all the states are struggling with, declining gas tax revenue. But you just know that, there is a requirement for the state to move forward with a system. And probably what it'll look like in the short term is a higher registration fee for electric or partially electric vehicles, and then eventually we will get to some way of actually tracking the number of miles that you drive and being able to charge you for that directly.
Percentage wise. And then someone has their hand raised. I'll let them ask the next question, but there's no way to get data centers to pay a little bit more that go to transportation as they're becoming such a huge energy draw. Is there, or has that been considered that you know about?
I know that there's a lot of focus on getting data centers to pay more for the power generation and power transmission that they're going to require in order to operate. But I have not heard about something like a transportation impact fee associated with data centers. I mean, they do charge, cities and counties will charge system development charges for developing transportation infrastructure or water and sewer or things like that in order to serve data centers. But I haven't heard about some kind of state level impact fee.
Okay. Peter, you've had your hand up for a minute. What is your question?
Yeah, thank you. Uh, Commissioner, I'd like to ask two questions. One of them is, in looking at my ballot, the explanation of this measure is all about what it's going to cost and hardly at all about what's going to happen if it doesn't pass. There's like one phrase about that, or what it will fund. And I'm wondering how that came to, it seems like somebody who really didn't want it to pass wrote that.
Yeah. I I don't have any insights on that. I mean, but the bottom line is, with less snow and ice removal, less landslide, tree and crash clearing, um, there will be more severe and fatal crashes.
Yeah, well, it says nothing about
our
that.
roads will be low. Yeah.
And, it seems like that was a very severe um, omission. The other question was, in the years that I've been living in
Yeah.
Oregon, which goes back to about 1970 or so, the options for public transportation seem to have declined really substantially. So it's really almost impossible to get from Southern Oregon to the valley. Uh, there's, I guess, one train a day or something, and that doesn't even go through Ashland. So, um, are there any plans for improving that again? I mean, there used to be buses that ran several times a day. Now there's nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things one of the strands of the Measure 120 story that I haven't mentioned is the public transit piece. So, in addition to the gas and a gas tax increase and the title and registration fee increases, there was inside House Bill 3991, there was also a provision to increase the payroll tax, the tax paid on wages, by 0.01%, or just like basically it's a tenth of a percent currently, and they were going to increase that to 0.2%, for a short period of time, not permanently. So that would be one potential source of funding for expansion of public transit, transportation options. But like I said, one of the things they're doing in order to shore up basic road maintenance is they're rating programs like Connect Oregon. And one of the things that it supports is rail. So rail projects. So I mean, if we're rating all these other modes of transportation in order to just fund basic road maintenance, then I wouldn't expect to see a lot of improvements in those other modes of transportation in the near future.
Okay, we
Thank you.
kept you longer than we intended. There's one more question, if you don't mind, one quick answer,
Yeah.
and then we'll let you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a question about what is the tax on public transportation service wages about?
What is the tax on public transportation service? What?
It says the question as it's phrased, and maybe Craig, you want to jump on and help me with your phrasing. Maybe it says, what is the tax on public transportation service wages about?
Yeah, that was directly quoted from the ballot measure itself.
Okay.
And it says that there would be a tax on transportation service wages. And it sounds like it targets a particular segment of the population, and it doesn't ring fair to my ears.
No, so it's a tax for public transportation services, but it's basically on all wages in the state of Oregon. So you look at your pay stub and you'll see a very small deduction for the payroll tax, and so this was created in also in House Bill 20. Another thing that House Bill 2017 did was it created this payroll tax, a tenth of a percent on wages, in order to provide more stable and larger funding for public transit districts. And, in the years since 2017, that funding has really stabilized public transit districts and allowed them to, expand service, increase frequency of routes, increase routes, do all kinds of great stuff to make public transit work better. Even with that, there are some public transit districts around the state that are really struggling to square their budgets. Here in Central Oregon, we're with the current House Bill 2017 payroll tax, 1/10 of a percent. We're doing pretty good. Like my public transit district here, Cascades East Transit, is able to run sustainably, but others could really use this additional bump that's included in a Measure 120 and was included in House Bill 3991 in order to get themselves into a more sustainable place.
Thank you. I was interpreting that phrase on the ballot measure backwards. And from what you say, it distributes over the whole population, not just transportation workers. And I just misinterpreted.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, or would you just like to get back on the road?
I guess the one other thing I would, when I've talked to people and they say, well, I don't want to be paying more for gas. I just say to them, okay, your average Oregonian, average efficiency vehicle, average number of miles they drive a month. Maybe they're buying 50 gallons of gas. It's $3, right? So $3 a month buys you a safer, better functioning system where you're not going to experience closures, you're not going to experience dangers at the level that we will be if we can't figure out our transportation maintenance funding for the state. So again, it's a really hard sell at this moment in time with the Iran war, gas price increases, but it's just not a lot of money.
It's less than a cup of coffee. Well, thanks for that. I like the way you phrased that up, and I'm sure I'm going to use that line on folks quite a bit in the next couple of weeks while we try to get a few people to vote for it anyway, so it's not a total flop. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate you taking a minute, and hope that you have a safe journey wherever it is that you're heading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for letting me come and chat with you a little bit today about this fundamentally important issue for the state of Oregon. If this doesn't pass, which nobody's expecting it to, I really hope the legislature, that would be my next action. I'd encourage you to focus on is, drag some legislators in here and have them tell you how they're going to fix our chronic maintenance funding shortfall.
Perfect. We shall do that. We like holding our Congress and senators accountable for their votes, and sounds like we'll have our work cut out for us next year. Thanks very much again.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Yeah.
Have a great evening.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It was perfect that he had that interview from inside his car.
Yeah. And that it was a hybrid.
It was a hybrid.
But I really like the framing that we're talking an average of $3 a month to have safe roads. And I think that that is something that we can share out with folks. And
Definitely.
yeah.
I wonder why there isn't a campaign on that or something. I mean, there really hasn't been much of a campaign to support this all the way along, you know?
Yeah, my guess is that nobody who's on the ballot wants to be on record supporting a tax of any kind, given the temperament.
Yeah. I don't know. It's yeah. Anybody have any thoughts on that? How we can? I don't know. It's too late to fix it now, but it's like one of those things. It's bad timing, terrible timing.
Yeah.
And
Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I own a motorcycle dealership, and somebody came at me the other day and said, "Why should I pay more for gas?" I said, because do you want to hit a pothole on that motorcycle? Do you actually want to, do you want to deal with that? And so when I actually sell bikes and there's that little state tax in there already, I always call it my pothole tax. Thanks to you paved a pothole today. So I do myself one customer at a time.
There you go.
So
Sean.
Well, I think the one point that I was trying to make is the electric cars weigh, my truck weighs 1,500 pounds less than most electric cars. They do more damage to the roadways than a motorcycle, a car. A Honda Civic weighs what, 3,500, 3,800? The average electric car weighs 7,000.
Mm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say it needs to be, they need to figure out a way to pay that if it's done by weight.
Okay.
Average out, the average person drives about 15,000 miles a year. Or that's what they claim anyway.
Yeah.
And they can weigh it out that way. That's possible. But I don't, I didn't want to bring that up to him because he's in a, last minute of the push. So kind of hard to really bring up to him.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point, though. I would suggest writing an op-ed or two and getting it out for the public to see.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who are driving their EVs are feeling pretty virtuous, and maybe they're not even considering that they're chewing up the road. Maybe they would like to contribute more because they're
seems like a good entree for a weight mile tax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. Huh.
Well, not to mention the environmental, because they also go through tires twice as fast.
Do they?
Yes. Yeah. And the compound of the tires is a lot more damaging to the environment than your regular road tire.
I'm curious on the call how many people have an EV or a hybrid. We have one hybrid, but there's a few.
Okay.
But it's also winterized tires too, studded tires. That's a whole nother thing. They are really damaging. And throw that onto an electric car. Oh my, that's just got to be tearing up the road. So good conversation. I'm definitely,
it's interesting.
Quite a bit.
Definitely.
So Claudia, is your hand up to ask a question or just that you were raising it because you have an EV?
Just the EV. Thank you, though.
Okay. And same question to you, Peter. Your hand is up.
No, I wanted to respond to what Sean said because I've been driving a Leaf now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I can't believe that it weighs anywhere near 7,000 pounds. Maybe it's not the average. But I know that when I register, to get my vehicle registration, I pay a lot higher of a rate than the people who are registering gas cars. And I've got one of those little devices in my car that measures the number of miles that I drive, and they charge me by the mile. And the rate that I pay for registration is a little lower that way. But then they charge me every month for the number of miles that I drive. So,
do you know what the at mile price is?
Yeah, I do, but I can't remember it right now. Because I do notice that, but it's not in my mind right now. But it's not an insignificant amount, and so there's already some effort being made, and has been for some time now, to deal with the problem that we're not paying, the EV drivers are not paying gas tax.
This sounds like a conversation we should have in another meeting. You know what I mean? I think we should have, that know about electric cars, people, like maybe with SOCAN or some other organizations like that can come on and talk to us about, how to make good choices on this. So I'm going to put this one away for the future. I'm going to note that 2 weeks from now is our next meeting, and it's going to be an election night watch party, and we'll get to celebrate or whatever together at 8 o'clock when we see what happens with this gas tax referendum. So do mark your calendars for that. We'll be meeting a half an hour late. We'll meet from 7:30 to 8:30, only because we feel like that first half an hour we can talk a little bit about what we think is going to happen, what races we want to watch, and then it usually takes 5-10 minutes after 8 before they actually begin putting out all the election results. So we'll probably hang out here until 8:30 because there's going to be some counties that are really slow. And we also kind of want to know what's going to happen with a lot of this, like which Republican's going to emerge on the governor's side, things like that. So we really hope everybody will watch the election with us 2 weeks from today. So that's going to happen. So mark your calendar, 7:30. So, so unless there's any other thing about the gas tax, we wanted to just have a really quick conversation about what last Friday's May Day Strong effort, I guess. It was something different for Indivisible. It was less a rally than it was. They were trying to make a movement, and we're not sure who had events with your Indivisible groups and how did they go, and do you feel did it had an impact in any way? I just would kind of like to know if anybody had any kind of feel for what happened last Friday.
So I threw a block party in Coos Bay, and we got a bunch of different community organizations together to try and build our community here. It was awesome as an event between the community partners, but we didn't get a lot of people coming. They're just, as a systems test, we're not ready here.
Okay.
Yeah. Were people aware of businesses that shut, or anything in your communities? No. Yeah. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in Salem. We had a fairly large event at the Capitol that was organized by PICUN, the Farm Workers Union. And I would guess there were somewhere between 700 and 1,000 people there.
Wow.
That's just a top of the head estimate. I have no way to do a crowd estimate when I'm in the crowd. And I was serving as a de-escalator, which was not necessary at all. There weren't any incidents, but was down in the crowd. There was a march around the Capitol. There was music. There were speeches. The governor spoke, and spoke quite well about this issue. So in Salem, there was a pretty good observance.
Okay.
That's great. I haven't heard of much of an economic impact, which I think was the primary goal of the entire national event. And I think maybe tune in on What's the Plan on Thursday to hear what Ezra and Leah have to say about it. But I know that it was kind of a canary down the coal mine to see if we could flex that muscle economically, because people have been really suggesting that we do it. And I'm guessing that we learned that we're not quite there yet all the way around. Yeah.
Well, they did it in Minnesota and were successful, but Minnesota is a smaller place than, the entire United States, and trying to get everybody on board and doing the same thing economically is just really hard. I think in Oregon too, we rely so much on small businesses. We don't have the huge corporations that have, lots of employees and unions, et cetera. So I think that we're different out here, but I don't know. I just want to know what everybody else, experienced in that event. Suzanne.
You're muted.
Yeah, I was in Portland with the Raging Grannies. There were probably 20 of us, and it seemed large to me in Portland, much larger than I expected. I was part of basically the march through town. There were speakers beforehand. I wasn't there for that part, but yeah, it seemed quite large. I don't know if anyone else on this Zoom was in Portland, but it was fun, and the brass band was playing, high spirits.
Nice. I want to hear more about the Raging Grannies. Are you an indivisible group, or what do you all do?
Well, I'm a newbie with the Grannies, and they're a social justice group, and I think it's an international organization. And social justice focus, and we have committees within the group: environmental, gender justice, immigrant justice. We try to touch all those areas. And they're quite famous for singing, although that's just part of it. And so, but they take a common melody and make their own words for that common melody. And they have a fabulous frog song. And
Can you sing a few bars?
I cannot.
Maybe find a video. Somebody can bring a video to the next meeting and entertain us. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I have this great idea of what I think is a great idea of bringing together the Grannies with Sunrise Movement and just starting to get this song out. And so I was at the song group today, and so they are going to videotape and record, and just start getting a feel for that. And anyway, I'll be out of town for 3 weeks, and then when I come back, I would love to connect with the Sunrise Movement group, the Grannies, working with the youth, and just get the song spread throughout Portland, and just all over.
So Cheryl Christie's with the Grannies as well. Can you unmute, Cheryl?
Yes, and one of my favorite songs is Act Locally, where it talks about all the different things that you can do locally to help. And people, really tend to really enjoy the songs that we're singing. We do a lot of the parades, the Pride Parade, and we do Good in the Hood, and we did the Rose Parade. We go to different events. We went to the high school to do climate. We went to one of the high schools and did climate things, songs, and it gets, people enjoy the words, and I think it gets people thinking. And but it's a really great group to go out and protest with, because we go to a lot of protests. We also do a lot of protests dealing with the ice down at McAdam, but it's nice to do it, and people always thank us, and we're recognizable because we wear the hats and the aprons, and so.
Oh, well, I'd love to have a video to share one of these.
Yeah,
things.
send us.
Yeah.
Send us a video.
Yeah, videos.
That'd be great.
I could send some words too if you wanted.
Awesome.
Thanks. That's great. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that the Raging Granny goes back about 40 years or so that I can think of, and they're all over the place. They have been doing this lots of different places. But if you like the idea of the grannies, I've been a member now for 52 years of a group called Dr. Atomic's Medicine Show. We do political satire, and if you want to do a fundraiser in your community, and you want to have political satire, get hold of us.
We should have a resistance fair, don't you think so? Find a place where we can have the grannies and the medicine show and all these different groups that are actually creating resistance music and have a gathering. I think that'd be awesome. Make it an indivisible gather, right?
And I'll just say the grannies started in Canada and against the protesting against the nuclear I guess submarines or ships around Victoria. That's where it actually started. But I think there's also there's I think at least one in Europe. It's mostly in the United States, but it started in Canada.
Well, that's too fun. Well, we'll look into trying to do an NBC gather. I think that'd be really fun to do a resistance fair of some kind. Bring all the music together, bring people together, and get to see each other when we're not on a screen in little tiny boxes, right? I think that's
and not necessarily protesting, but sharing our joy. Would be a nice thing.
That'd be great. Yeah. All right, we'll look into it in our spare time. We'll see if we can figure it out sometime this summer. Find a venue, something that's that's compatible with what we can afford, etc. So yeah, that'd be fun. Cool. Is there anything else anybody wants to throw out there into the world at this point before we take off in our different directions?
I would love to hear about the Coastal Coalition coming together this week, Susan. If you want to share a little bit about that, I just love that these groups are joining and creating a bigger voice.
I'd love to, and I see Greg out there, who is one of the members of the Coastal Coalition. Since the COINvention, which was really the start of how this has come together, we started talking about some of the issues along the coast and the rural, some more rural than other indivisible groups. And we've come together. We have an amazing team that put together and assembled. And we decided that we really needed to get together and meet because we would love to have a rapid response team together. A number of us did respond when Newport was under threat, and we all went up for a big rally, and Val Hoyle showed up, and it was amazing. And we recognize there again that the power in numbers. So our coalition is called the Oregon Coast Indivisible Alliance, and we call it OSHA. And OSHA is really working to come together and see what we can do and perhaps inspire other people who live in rural areas to understand the power of numbers. Certainly the coalitions that they have going on in Portland are inspiring, and we can do it perhaps on a smaller level, but we're going to get together at a local little hotel that has been very accommodating and provided us a nice discount for anybody who wanted to come in. And so we're getting together tomorrow evening for a nice dinner that we're all doing a potluck. And then we're going to have a day-long session about who are we, what are we trying to accomplish, what do we individually bring to the party, and to make it both fun and something that is useful. So that's what we've got going on. Anything, Greg, you want to add? No, we're just happy to have you.
That sounded really good.
Thanks.
All right. Well, take those ideas home with you tonight. If you're living, especially in some of these far corners of Oregon, look at the other people around you. It's more fun to do this together. Nobody wants to be having a little tiny group out in the middle of nowhere that doesn't feel like they're supported. So. If you need other groups near you, contact us. We have a whole list of groups all over the state, and we can connect you, and maybe you can get together and form your own little what do you call it? Alliance. That's what you call it. Alliance.
So if I could make one last little pitch, the Coin Chronicle is growing every single week in numbers. And if you want to find out what is going on in the state, we do maintain a nice list. We are also all about providing access to articles and information that you're not going to see in mainstream news. We know that everybody has a lot of different things that you're streaming. That's not what we spend the week searching out, things that you might have missed or that you might not be a part of. And then we also have a part called Our Voices. And I have to say a shout out to Peter Bergel, because Peter's been one of our best responders who has, ever since the day we launched this a few weeks ago, he has had some really insightful and intelligent responses to just questions that we're posing, questions that we think a lot of us are thinking about, and we want to give voice to people who have thoughts on these issues, and we appreciate you, Peter, so thanks, and everybody else who's been responding. So come on, people, it's the coinchronicle.org, and you can just sign up there if you haven't signed up yet. We would love to have your voice involved too, because that's what we're here for with COIN. We're really trying to engage everybody, hear from a lot of different areas of the state, and not just one specific area. So thank you very much.
Yeah. At the end of it, too, there's a great section on how to take care of yourself, ideas to, maintain your sanity and your health during these crazy times. So that's some of my favorite parts sometimes, clicking down at the bottom and finding out what I should be doing this week. Now, whether I do it is the big question. Can honestly, I squeeze it into the day?
It is one of the top 2 or 3 things every week that people are tuning into. We've got a naturopathic doctor who is she lives in Portland, Maine, but she also did her studies here in Portland, Oregon. So she is somebody who is writing little articles for us every week. And then we also have a holistic nutritionist. Okay, that's me, who writes like a short article about, things that you can do to just try to support yourself, because these are crazy hard times, and we absolutely need to do some self-care to not burn out. And that is the topic for this week's session, is about burnout and how we can avoid it. And Peter had some particularly good comments on that. So join us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. And one last thing, if you have any ideas for meetings coming up in the next couple months, we're always open to ideas. If you'd like to learn about something in particular statewide, or if you have an idea of an organization that you'd like for us to know about, or you have questions and want to, whatever. If you have something, please just let us know. Because we're always, data center, says somebody. Yeah, that's a big deal. Very big deal right now. So wildfire is another one, man. So it's going to be wild. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for coming tonight. We're right at 8:00, and we just appreciate everybody showing up tonight, and hope you take these messages that the commissioner spoke tonight back to your people and spread them around. Maybe we'll get a miracle on 2 weeks from now. And we'll see you then.
You never know. $3 a month.
$3 a month, really. Less than my latte. Tell you.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Night.
Appreciate you.